Good morning, it is Christmas Eve 2019 and today I've got a couple of spare hours, so I thought it best to follow up my video from a couple of weeks ago where basically I'll give another introduction. I started writing a book some years ago, nearly 10 years ago now I think. Not a book of much interest really, it's just my musings and thoughts, etc. Titled Life as I Know It. And as I said previously, that I only got as far as writing about 7 or 8 chapters, sections. They're not really chapters because they're like 1 to 1.5 pages. Some only half a page. It's nothing massive. It's just interesting to look back at stuff that I wrote all that time ago and to think of it now. And just kind of give an opinion on how my thought has changed. The next section in my book is called Misinterpretation of Freedom. I don't remember writing it, but obviously some of the parts in it is still vaguely in my memory. So we'll go ahead, I'll read through it again and then just get into it. Right. Misinterpretation of Freedom. Since my early years, I've had a keen interest in all forms of cycling and bicycles, having always had a bicycle since before the age of 2. It was only this very first bicycle that had stabilizer wheels attached to it. It was a very antique-looking, hand-built. Stop myself there. I very much doubt it was hand-built. Like it was probably very much, thinking back to it now, very much a factory-built standard rally bike. It was an antique, hand-built, 12-inch wheeled, grammar was terrible, 12-inch wheeled white tyre rally. I can only imagine that this bicycle could fetch a small fortune on the likes of eBay, except that it had fallen victim to a dump yard more than a decade ago. I wonder how much those bikes would cost. Moving on from the antique, my first modern day bicycle was a 20-inch Rally BMX in blue with blue tyres. It didn't take me long to try out my best abilities on a bicycle far too big for my own frame. Luckily to my advantage, our front garden at the time had a slope from the driveway leading to a red bricked patio area and onto a large area of grass. My learning to ride this new oversized bicycle involved pushing it with some difficulty to the top of those 3-meter long brick-built slope. Again, very poor graph. Basically, it was a slope and, it was about 3 meters long. Turning it around, holding it still, jumping on top and letting gravity do the rest of the work. Unable to properly reach the pedals, I just let my legs flail and try not to get caught in between any of the 36 spokes of either wheel. I carried on like this for weeks, if not months. I can't quite remember how long it was exactly. In fact, thinking back now, it feels like it was only a single day in which I did this, but it could well have been a longer period of time. Until I was eventually able to reach the pedals and use my legs to add to the speed that gravity provided. I'm struggling to read this, like I should have learned English before I wrote this. I kept at it to the point where I was able to roll down the slope, pedal a little bit, turn around on the grass, pedal some more and keep going until I was back on top of the slope to do only the whole thing again. After this I started getting only more adventurous with how far I could ride without too steep a hill forcing me to give in. I'm going to admit that my grammatical prowess was shit. That's terrible. I soon moved on to learning to ride even bigger bicycles, skipping 24-inch kids mountain bikes and going straight onto a full-size 26-inch mountain bike. This one for a bigger bicycle was fueled by my fanaticism of professional downhill and trails riders. It's amazing how much influence a well-executed sports maneuver, if you like, can have on a young mind. Enough to make me want to go out and try for myself what I had seen on the television. What also helped me further develop this interest and skill in executing my own attempt at copying what I loved so much at the time was having a friend who shared every interest I had. We would often challenge each other, setting cycling tasks to push each other to the limits of our abilities, and soon the limits of our bicycles' abilities when they started giving in under the forces we exerted on them. Yeah, I used to break bikes, buckled wheels, all that kind of shit. On a quiet and mildly warm late afternoon one summer, I felt particularly adventurous and decided that I would test my freedom of being able to jump on my bicycle and going somewhere. I got so far as riding all of maybe 3 miles from home. What? Sorry, I'm just confused by what the hell I wrote here. Right, I'm just going to reword this on the fly because it's terrible. I got so far as riding all of maybe 3 miles from home, atop one of the 2 steepest hills in town. I apologise if you can hear that noise, that's one of my PC fans kicking in. I've got some faulty parts at the moment. Hopefully Santa brings me something new. Right, where was I? I hadn't even reached the town limits before starting to feel remorse for my actions. I don't know what remorse there is in just going for a 3-mile bike ride. And started to think about the implications that my adventure could have. Again, I don't know what the hell I was thinking. I instantly knew that me parting from home unannounced would result in me without a place to sleep, without food and without a cent to live on. I must have been let into the alcohol cabinet on this day. Of course, there were the questions and worry to follow from family and friends. I soon returned home without so much as a, "Where have you been?" Yeah, because I'd only been out for an hour, that was nothing. I looked at the time. Oh yeah, so this goes to prove it. I looked at the time and my adventure had cost me little over an hour of my life. A bargain as far as I can see for a lesson well learned, and all this before reaching my teens. Then began the trek back up the hill, back home. I'm very confused here. I don't quite know what life lesson I taught myself or learned by myself here. Apparently 10 years ago I thought there was a lesson in this, or even before that, going back 25 years, I thought there was a lesson in this. If anything, I'm super confused. Reading this now really, really reiterates that you can't just write any old shit and expect people to want to read it. I struggled reading it. I've struggled wanting to keep on reading it once I'd started. Oh well. I think the one lesson from this, or one reminder at least from this, is that, yeah, I taught myself how to ride a bike, and I think that's how I live my life most of the time now. I teach myself how to do things. I don't often rely on other people instructing me or helping me with things. Obviously, if I'm really, really stuck, especially when it comes to something technical, I do consult help. But, when it comes to anything physical, I just get on and do it. I won't be rereading it anytime soon. Maybe I'll give it another 10 years, reread it again. Maybe it'll make sense again after all that time. Rereading the title, Misinterpretation of Freedom, I don't really see how that applies to the story I've got here. I know I said that one bit there about I decided that I would test my freedom of being able to jump on a bike and going anywhere. That's just silly. At an age when you are still very reliant on parents and obviously living with family, I don't see that you have that kind of freedom until you can start paying or at least making your own way. Let's call this episode complete garbage. One lesson learned is that, I don't know, as you experience life more, you pick up the garbage more easily. Simple as that, I suppose. And you don't misinterpret freedom, that's for sure. Right, I'm going to wrap it up there. Thank you for watching. If you watched all the way through, definitely consider subscribing if you liked that kind of video, or leave a comment down below if you'd like to hear more about my adventures on my bicycle when I was a youth. Until next time, hope you have an excellent Christmas and a happy New Year, and yeah, be good. Bye.